Okay, I'd like to call this session to order. Today's first special session, Friday, June 3rd, 2022 at approximately 10:13. And before we move on, I'd like to stand up for a moment of silent prayer. And please let us keep in our prayers our Lieutenant Governor Arnold Palacios and his family at this time. Thank you, members. And with that, like the clerk, Thomas Beneventi, who is sitting in on his first delegation session, to officially call the roll.
Representative Adda,
Present.
Representative Atto,
Present.
Representative Babauta Selina,
Presente.
Representative Babauta Sheila,
Presenti.
Representative Camacho Joel,
Yeah.
Representative Camacho Vicente,
Present.
Senator De Leon Guerrero,
Here.
Representative Damapan, Representative Flores,
Present.
Representative Guerrero, Representative Lizama,
Present.
Representative Magofnia,
Kaya.
Representative Probst, Senator Kutugwa, Representative Sablon Christina,
Present.
Representative Sablon John Paul,
Instigat.
Chairman Sablon Vinny,
Gagat.
Representative Staffler, Representative Villagomez,
Hello.
Representative Yanktamai,
Nyangi.
Representative Yumo, Representative Damapan, Representative Guerrero, Representative Probst, Senator Kutugwa, Representative Staffler, Representative Yumo. Mr. Chairman, 16 members are present, 5 members are absent.
Thank you, clerk. With 16 members present, we hereby have established a quorum. For the record, Senator Kirugwa, Representative Angel, Representative Lipan are hereby excused. I did get communications from both Representative Probst and Representative Staffler that they will be coming in shortly. So with that, before we move on, I'd also like to we have our legislative staff here, our legal counsel for today's proceedings, Joe Tyron, and our clerk, Sir Thomas Beneventi. I think we have all of our sergeant at arms here, or Sarge Peter White. We also have our Sarge Will Ogun. We have Del Camacho on the IT with Jonathan. So thank you to the LB staff for assisting us today. So with that, we move down to item B, reading and approval of the journal. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I offer a motion to adopt SNILD Journal 22-10, second day, third regular session, March 25, 2022. So move.
Okay, there's been a motion to adopt SNILD Journal 22-10. It's been seconded. Discussion on that motion? Ready? All in favor for the approval of SNILD Journal 22-10, please say aye. All who oppose, say nay. Motion carries. Next, under item C is public comments, and this is the portion of our proceeding where we allow the public members in the gallery to offer any comments on anything that is on today's agenda. So the podium is open for public comments. Anybody? Oh, okay. Okay, so no one for public comments. Before we move on to item D, I'd like to recognize the floor leader for some suspension motions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I'd like to offer a motion to suspend pertinent rules to accept communications that we received after the agenda was issued. So moved.
Okay, there's been a motion to suspend rules to accept communications that did not make the call on time. And it has been seconded. Any discussion on the suspension motion? Ready? Clerk, please call the roll for the suspension motion.
Representative Adda. Representative Atau.
Yes.
Representative Babauta Selena.
Hungan.
Representative Babauta Sheila.
Again,
Representative Komatsu Joel.
Hungan.
Representative Komatsu Vicente.
Yes.
Senator De Leon Guerrero.
Yes.
Representative Damapon. Representative Flores.
Yes.
Representative Guerrero. Representative Lizama.
Yes.
Representative Magofnia.
Hungan.
Representative Probst. Senator Quituga. Representative Sablon Christina.
yes.
Representative Sablon John Paul.
Hungan.
Representative Staffler. Representative Villagomez.
Yes.
Representative Yanktamai.
Aware.
Representative Yumo. Chairman Sablon Vinny.
Okay.
Representative Damapon. Representative Guerrero. Representative Probst. Senator Quituga. Representative Staffler. Mr. Chairman, 16 members voted yes, 5 members absent.
Thank you, Clerk. With 16 members voting yes, the motion for suspension of the rules carries. Now we move on to item D, introduction of local bills. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Representative Corina Magofnia for her local bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Introducing House Local Bill Number 22-31 to appropriate unobligated funds under Saipan Local Law 22-10 in the amount of $430,000 from fees collected pursuant to Public Law 20-10 and for other purposes. If I may, I would like to ask our floor leader if there are no objections to place this bill on calendar for action. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Magofnia. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With no objection, I hereby place House Local Bill 22-31 on today's calendar for action.
Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. Next, I'd like to, for Representative Angel Dimapon's bill, I'd like to recognize Representative Joseph Flores for the introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to formally introduce House Local Bill number 22-32 to appropriate $1,016 allotted under Saipan Local Law 19-2, specifically under Business Unit 3400X. $12 allotted under Saipan Local Law 19-2, specifically under Business Unit 3500A. $16,000 allotted under Saipan Local Law 19-24, specifically under Business Unit 7171. $13,173 allotted under Saipan Local Law 20-04, specifically under Business Unit 3754. $42,059 allotted under Saipan Local Law 20-26, specifically under Business Unit 7190B. And $79,171 allotted under Saipan Local Law 20-26, specifically under Local Law 2026, specifically under Business Unit 7188-6X for the purpose and for other purpose. Introduced by Representative Angel Dimapan. And Mr. Chairman, I think if it's no objection, I'd like for you to put this under calendar for action for today's.
No objection. Floor leader for the,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With no objection, I hereby place House Local Bill 22-32 on today's calendar for action.
Second.
thank you. Floor leader. We move down to item E, introduction of local resolutions. We have none. Item F, messages from the governor. Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, we have three under messages from the governor. Governor's Communications 22-18 through 22-20.
Thank you, clerk. Any discussions under item F? Recognize Representative Christina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to address Governor's Communication 2218 regarding the $2 million that this body appropriated for the Northern Marianas College and for the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation. As the chair of the Health and Welfare Committee in both the House and the SNILD, I was really disappointed to hear that CHCC has not received even a penny of these funds that we appropriated and that was signed into law in April. We're now it's now June 3rd. They haven't received a penny of the SNILD funds. They haven't received even a penny of the general funds that we appropriated in Public Law 2208. And I'd like to ask Mr. Chairman that the SNILD leadership follow up with the Secretary of Finance, with the administration. I don't know the status of the funds that were appropriated for NMC, but I do know that our healthcare system really needs these funds. And that we approved them as a body, and the governor signed it into law, and they need those funds to be transferred. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. So noted. The delegation leadership will reach out to the administration on the status of these funds. Before we move on, just for the record, Representative Probst is now with us today. Good morning, Rep. Probst. Anyone else under messages from the governor before we move on? Recognize Representative Fato.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to thank the governor for signing House Local Bill 22-27 S1 D1 and for getting the funds to the appropriate entities that we appropriate the funds to. And also would like to thank Representative Karina Magofnia for introduction and the floor leader for placing 22-31 on bill calendar for action today so that we can address the line item sections of Saipan Local Law 22-10. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Fato. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair.
Recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just adding to what Rep. Atao commented on under Gov Communication 22-20, House Local Bill 22-27 S1 D1. I too would like to include this and just inform the members that this local bill did fund a lot of community projects, and we've been getting communications and follow-up emails and calls from our community members. In Precinct 4, with the leadership of Rep. Joel, we did fund a new playground set for GCC Elementary School. We funded Talabok Stars for youth programs and operations, as well as NSA, Nativo Sports Association, for a summer league. And so just for the record, we will be including this in a follow-up so that we can properly inform our community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, floor leader. Anybody else? Okay. Moving on to item G, messages from the mayors of Saipan and the Northern Islands. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we have one under messages from the mayors of Saipan and the Northern Islands. Mayor's Communication 22-37.
Thank you, clerk. Any comments under item G? Ready? Moving on to items H, reports and communications from the heads of department and agencies. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we have two under reports and communications from the heads of departments and agencies. Department agency communication numbers 22-5 and 22-6.
Thank you, Clerk. Any comments under item H? Ready? Moving on to item I, House Communications. Recognize the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we have 8 under House Communications. House Communication numbers 22-37 through 22-44.
Okay. Any comments under item I? Recognize Senator Leon Guerrero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand we put a proposed legislation to be on the calendar this morning, and that is not my purpose for my comments. But I did some research back in time, considering that the proposed legislation is to reappropriate funding that were specifically allocated in prior years for specific projects. For example, Saipan Local Law 1924 was enacted back in September 2016. Saipan Local Law 2004 was enacted back in June 2017. And Saipan Local Law 2026 was enacted back in November 2018. In looking at the previous laws that were signed into place, I'm curious right now to know exactly what happened to these projects that were funded in prior years. We're talking years back, 5 or 6 years back, and why the specific projects were not completed by the expenditure authorities and the respective departments that were given the responsibilities. I think it's important that we find out moving forward to know what happened in those prior years. And we go through the process of reappropriation, re-legislating the same projects over and over. I don't feel personally that that is doing justice to the people of the Marianas. And we need to start holding departments that are expected to perform on the projects, including the Secretary of Finance's office, to make sure that these appropriations are expended in the time period that the legislation was passed and subsequently moved into law, so that the people of the Commonwealth can benefit from the projects that are intended for. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Leon Guerrero. So noted. And we can work on those we'll reach out to see what kind of information we can get, and maybe in future legislations we can put some reporting clauses and some dates under status of projects or whatnot. But we've been seeing that throughout all the legislatures in the past, that we've pending projects not being done and reappropriating those funds. So so noted, and we'll try to gather some information on that. Thank you, Senator. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on. We are on item J, Senate Communications. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we have 1 under Senate Communications, Senate Communication number 22-5.
Thank you. Any comments under J? Okay, moving on to K, Delegation Matters. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we have 8 under Delegation Matters. Delegation Matters numbers 22-95 through 22-102.
Thank you, Clerk. Any comments? Ready? Moving on to item L, Miscellaneous Communications. Recognize the Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we have 8 under Miscellaneous Communications. Miscellaneous Communications 22-86 through 22-93.
Any comments under item L? Ready? Moving on to item M, Reports of Standing Committees. And at this time, I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I motion to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-20, SNILD Standing Committee on Zoning, reporting on House Local Bill 22-22, to amend the Saipan Official Zoning Map Sheet 5 of 29 to rezone certain districts to mixed commercial and for other purposes. Your committee recommends that the delegation pass House Local Bill 22-22, Substitute 2. So move.
Okay, there's been a motion to adopt Standing Committee Report 22-20. It has been seconded. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All who oppose, say nay. Motion carries. Before we move on, just for the record, that Rep. Leila Staffler is with us today. Good morning, Mrs. Staffler. Moving on, we have none under reports of special conference committees. We have none under unfinished business. And moving along, none under resolution calendar. And now we are at the bill calendar, and now I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, at this time, I motion to pass House Local Bill 22-22, Substitute 2, to amend the Saipan official zoning map sheet 5 of 29 to rezone certain districts to mixed commercial and for other purposes. So move.
There's been a motion to pass House Local Bill 22-22 S2. It has been seconded. Short recess, please. Okay, so we're back in recess, and before we called for a recess, we were on the motion to pass House Local Bill 22-22 S2, and it was seconded. And we now open the floor for discussions on that motion. Recognize Representative Safler.
Thank you, Chairman and colleagues. If I may share a little bit about this bill. This Bill 22-22 Substitute 2 was um, in our committee, and we worked through to ensure that it, met all the needs that zoning provided. What this bill will do will allow for rental businesses, car rental businesses, to be able to conduct operations within the village commercial zoning districts on a conditional use, which in plain language means for a rental car business operating anywhere on the island of Saipan, they may be able to do staging and other things with a zoning permit that would be a conditional use operation approved by the board. This is expanding the options of businesses across the island to allow for these types of businesses within our village commercial zone districts, because it was previously unallowed. In the past, there was change to this as well, and it was because of the congestion that was in Garapan that disallowed for rental car agencies to be in the village commercial zones, but that did harm other villages that did not have the same kind of congestion issues. And so with the changes to the zoning law, this will still allow for the board to decide on what areas might be too congested for those type of staging practices, or might be allowable based on the village. And so this is an amendment to the zoning law that will be beneficial to businesses across the island. So thank you, Chairman, and I'm ready to vote.
Thank you, Rep. Safler. And I recognize our Vice Chairman of the delegation.
Thank you, Chairman. And I just want to add also, since I'm part of the zoning committee, that we work with the zoning office, and the zoning office are okay with these provisions in the substitute. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Anybody else? Recognize Rep. Yumo.
Just for clarification, because it says for car rental and other purposes, so does that include shops and auto shops in this bill?
Council. Okay, short recess. All right, so we're back from recess, and before the recess, we were still under discussion for the passage of House Local Bill 22-22 S2. Rep. Yumo had a question before the recess, so I'll recognize the council to answer that for on the record.
With respect to the language on page 2, which is set forth in section 2 amendment, the operative language states, auto rental office with storage, staging and service on site shall be allowed for conditional use in village commercial zoning districts. So as I interpret that language, any type of storage, staging and service that's incidental to the auto rental business would be permitted, and would it be up to zoning to interpret that language and enforce this provision? Thank you.
Thank you, council. Anyone else? Recognize Rep. Christina Sabah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to clarify further, council's reading of the operative language here, it will be auto rental office with storage, staging, and service permitted as a conditional use. And so if there are questions about the operations of the business in a village commercial area, it would be subject to public hearings and further review by zoning as a result of this being a conditional use allowed under the law, once this is signed. Correct?
Yeah, I would concur with that.
Okay.
Zoning can further clarify if they need to.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Rep. Sablan. We ready? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Adda,
Ngan.
Representative Atal,
Yes.
Representative Babauta Selena,
Hungan.
Representative Babauta Sheila,
Again.
Representative Camacho Joel,
Hungan.
Representative Camacho Vicente,
Yes.
Senator De Leon Guerrero,
Yes.
Representative Flores,
Yes.
Representative Lizama,
Yes.
Representative Magofnia,
Hungan.
Representative Probst, Representative Sablan Christina,
Yes.
Representative Sablan John Paul,
Hungan.
Representative Staffler,
Hungan.
Representative Villagomez,
Aware.
Representative Yanktamay,
Yes.
Representative Yumo, Chairman Sablan Vinny.
Hungan.
Mr. Chairman, all 18 members present voted yes.
Thank you, clerk. With all 18 members voting yes, House Local Bill 22-22 S2 hereby passes the delegation. Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I make a motion to pass House Local Bill 22-18 to amend Title 10, Division 3 of the Commonwealth Code by inserting a new Chapter 15 to establish permitting requirements for aircraft and/or personal landings in the Northern Islands and for other purposes. So move.
Thank you, floor. There's been a motion to pass House Local Bill 22-18 and it has been seconded. Under discussion. Under discussion, recognize Representative Christina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to offer a floor amendment, and if we could get the assistance of our IT and posting that for all the members to see. After consultation with the authors of the bill and also with council, I wanted to propose that we delete on page 3, lines 10 to 11, subsection C of section 30601. And that's the part that reads, any existing law or ordinance not consistent with this section is hereby repealed. So just to strike that from the bill, we did some further review of the part of the code that would be changed with the enactment of this bill, and we cannot find any law or ordinance that would not be consistent with this legislation, and so it really creates ambiguity that doesn't need to be there, and so I propose to strike that. Council, are we able to put the amendment?
My computer's kind of frozen right now, but let's see. I can probably show you.
Okay. So that, colleagues, is the proposed amendment. I so move.
Okay, there's a floor amendment offered by Representative Christina Sablan. It has been seconded. Any discussion on that floor amendment? Recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Rep. Sablan and co-author Joel Camacho, Rep. Joel Camacho, and legal counsel for the additional time and consideration in this amendment. I just wanted to state for the record that I do support this amendment. We will be deleting lines 10 and 11 on page 3, just so that we can remove any ambiguity and have clarification on this House local bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm ready to vote.
Thank you, floor leader. Any more under the floor amendment? Recognize Representative Selena Mbata.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask if this was put up for a public hearing. No, from the committee. Okay. It's just that I can see the imminent concerns of fishermen who, and as the mayor of the Northern Island Seas here present today, welcome, Mayor. I think we will get, we should probably get some feedback from fishermen who sometimes at the spur of the moment on a weekend when the office of the mayor is closed, who want to go up fishing for their household consumption. So I just wanted to register my concern that this was not put out for public hearing before we vote on the record. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Mbata. So we'll dispose of the floor amendment first, and then under the main motion, we'll have continued discussions if needed. Okay, so is everybody ready?
Ready.
Okay, the amendment was offered. It was seconded. There were discussions. All in favor for the floor amendment by Rep. Christina Sablan, please say aye. Aye. All who oppose, say nay. Motion carries. And House Local Bill 22-18 is now included a floor amendment, and we're now at the main motion. Okay, and it's in the form of draft 1. So now back to the main motion of House Local Bill 22-18, draft 1. Any discussion? Okay, recognize floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Rep. Selena, for raising your concern. The intent of this bill and really the entire history behind it came from the mayor's office of the Northern Islands. This is a request from the mayor, the Northern Islands mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for being here, and the constituents of the Northern Islands. The major concern coming from the mayor's office is safety. There have been landings and boats that the residents have seen up north that they are not aware of. And so this bill will only address landings, aircraft landings and personal landings. So fishermen, if they go up, they can still fish. But if any aircraft or boats are going to land on any of the Northern Islands, they must contact the mayor's office and apply for a permit. The language in this bill provides authority and flexibility to the mayor's office so that we don't have to do this entire process again to make minor changes. So we want to keep that authority with the mayor's office to promulgate the rules and regulations and work with the AG's office to draft those regulations that will then go through a public hearing process. And that is, I believe, the appropriate place where the residents of the Northern Islands and Saipan and the CNMI can come and provide some feedback. But my office and as Chair of Natural Resources, as well as Rep. Joel, because we are from Precinct 4, we will be assisting the mayor's office. And we are committed to seeing this through, because not only will this protect the people of the Northern Islands who are currently there, but it will also protect the environment, because we don't know what is on the boats and on the aircraft. And we want to ensure that the mayor's office is aware of anyone who will be landing on any of our islands. So if there are any questions, now's the time for discussion, but I fully support this bill and I'm ready to vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, floor leader. Anybody else?
Are we
Recognize.
still under discussion?
Yes,
or-
under discussion.
Okay.
Recognize representative.
I understand the concern from the chairwoman of Natural Resources, and I support the bill, the intent of the bill, and I do agree we do need to properly take care of our resources up north, especially pristine areas. However, I feel that without the input of those who do utilize vessels to go up there. I mean, what if a fisherman decides, to land unexpectedly in one of the islands just to take a break from fishing, the hot sun, to have lunch or those kinds of things. But I just wanted to register my concern that those who will be now required to comply with this have, their input has not been sought out. So that was just my concern. I do support the intent of the bill. But I just wanted to register my concern on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Botsa. Recognize Representative Joel Camacho for comments.
Thank you, floor leader, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Rep. Bebota, for that. I believe right now too, correct me if I'm wrong, council, but there is currently a protocol in place where you would have to go to the Department of Lands and Natural Resources to get permission to even go up to the Northern Islands. I believe that's the current protocol right now. So I think this bill would make it more clear that it would give the sole authority to the Northern Ireland Mayor's office, and to give them the ability to collect fees for maintenance or whatever that they have to do up in the Northern Islands. But I also wanted to make mention that a few years back there were some boats that were, if I'm not mistaken, were from Guam. There was even a video that came out. I believe the Northern Ireland Mayor's office is aware of this, and there was videos of them fishing, possibly collecting and harvesting the spondylus shells for commercial purposes. And that's something that I think we really need to prevent, or have them go through the proper channels. That there's a protocol in place, and I don't think they even go through the proper channels. So that's the reason why I also strongly support this legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. Anybody else? Recognize Rep. Christina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also support the intent of this bill. I did want to clarify something that the author mentioned about the Northern Islands mayor being granted sole authority. My understanding is that DLNR will continue to have the authority to require permits for people wanting to go up to the Northern Islands. This would be an additional requirement for the Northern Islands mayor to be able to enforce. Is that correct? Okay. Council is nodding yes. Authors are nodding yes. Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to request some clarification on for discussion, because I also share concern about people going up there also for commercial purposes. And the language in the bill refers to aircraft or personal landings. And could we just clarify what is a personal landing and what landings for commercial purposes be encompassed in that?
Thank you, Rep. Sablan, for the clarification. Council.
Chairman, this is a new subsection. It's a new chapter 15, and I believe we're looking at the entirety of it, through 30601 and 30602. If we wanted to do a more comprehensive bill or law, we could have a definition section, which would include something like the definition of an aircraft and a personal landing. But unfortunately, we're not there yet. So um,
What do we have to say personal? I mean, it's just both, right? So
we definitely have a a term of art that's not defined. So
Let's take a short recess. Okay, we are back in session, and before the recess, we were under discussion on the main motion for the passage of House Local Bill 22-18D1. And discussions, we will continue discussions. Under discussion, recognize Representative Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to formally offer some additional floor amendments to amend Title 10, subsection 30601A, which will be set forth by our council.
Yes.
So, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the first amendment is to change D1 to D2 to signify that it is the second draft. That's in the header as well. The main substantive amendments begin on page, I believe that's 3. So on section 2 amendment, my line 6 now, the first change will be to strike no aircraft or personal landings, and the language no landings will be inserted. On the next line, we will be adding by individuals, aircraft, watercraft, or other vessels. And then on line 11, we will add this provision does not apply to emergency landings. That's the amendment for 3601. Again, on subsection C was already struck in D1. In 3602, I added, with the permission of Representative Joel Camacho, the language promulgation of rules and regulations. That's just to underscore the fact that the mayor has that power and to add it to the title. That concludes the amendment. Thank you.
Privilege.
Recognize Representative Christina Zavala.
Thank you. I support the floor amendment. I would also just like to request, maybe this could just be technical, but that we strike out aircraft and or personal in the title of the bill, and also the words aircraft and or personal on page 2, line 19. So it would just read permitting requirements for landings in the Northern Islands. Thank you.
Council, could we do that as a technical? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, Chairman. Page 2 on line 19-ish. Got it.
Okay, so there's been a second floor amendment offered by Representative Joel Camacho to House Local Bill 22-18. It has been seconded.
Ready?
Okay, ready? All in favor for the floor amendment offered by Representative Camacho, please say aye.
Aye.
All who oppose say nay. Motion carries. House Local Bill 22-18 is now in the form of D2. Back to the main motion for the passage of House Local Bill 22-18 in the form of D2. Any discussion? Ready? Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Adda, Representative Ataw,
Yes.
Representative Babauta Selena,
Yes, with reservations.
Representative Babauta Sheila,
Again.
Representative Komatsu Joel,
Again.
Representative Komatsu Vicente,
Yes.
Senator De Leon Guerrero,
Yes.
Representative Flores,
Yes.
Representative Lizama, Representative Magofnia,
Yes.
Representative Probst, Representative Sablan Christina,
Yes.
Representative Sablan John Paul,
Again.
Representative Staffler,
Hungan.
Representative Villagomez,
Aware.
Representative Yangtame,
Hungan.
Representative Yumo, Chairman Sablan Vinny.
Hungan.
Mr. Chairman, all 18 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 18 members voting yes, House Local Bill 22-18 hereby passes the delegation in the form of D2. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I motion to pass House Local Bill 22-31 to appropriate unobligated funds under Saipan Local Law 22-10, $430,000 from fees collected pursuant to Public Law 20-10 and for other purposes. So move.
Okay, there's been a motion to pass House Local Bill 21-31, and it has been seconded. Discussion on that motion? 31. 2231. Correction, 2231. Under discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Adda,
Yes.
Representative Atal,
Yes.
Representative Babauta Selena,
Again.
Representative Babauta Sheila,
Again.
Representative Komatsu Joel,
Again.
Representative Komatsu Vicente,
Yes.
Senator De Leon Guerrero,
Yes.
Representative Flores,
Yes.
Representative Lizama,
Yes.
Representative Magofnia,
Yes.
Representative Probst, Representative Sablan Christina,
Yes.
Representative Sablan John Paul,
Again.
Representative Staffler, Representative Villagomez,
Aware.
Representative Yanktamai,
Aware.
Representative Yumo, Chairman Sablan Vinny,
Hungad.
Representative Staffler. Mr. Chairman, all 17 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 17 members present voting yes, House Local Bill 22-31 hereby passes the delegation. Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I motion to pass House Local Bill 22-32. So move.
Okay, there's been a motion to pass House Local Bill 22-32, and it has been seconded. Discussion on that motion? Recognize Representative Christina Sablan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to ask the authors of the bill if they were able to obtain certifications of funds available for all of these different business units that we're reappropriating from. And if we can verify that the various projects that were being funded here, 'cause these are some pretty significant amounts. Are these for projects that have already been completed and now you're reappropriating them? Just some clarification because that's not clear in the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. I know the author of the bill is not here, but recognize Representative Ato.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question, Representative Sablan. That these actual funds, the availability of funds came from DPW. These are completed projects that Precinct 1 had appropriated in the previous delegation or the previous legislatures. And also, these the projects have been completed, and these are the remaining monies from those accounts. Some of these monies are a little bit bigger than others because there was other monies that were used to address those specific projects. That's why you have like that $79,000, $79,171 is bigger than that $12. I mean, who leaves $12 to appropriate, right? So those are the monies that were available for appropriation upon the completion of the various projects that were probably assisted from other federal grants that came into the CDMI that were able to address some of these projects in Precinct 1. So all these monies that are being appropriated from various local laws came from projects that have been completed in Precinct 1. And these are all Precinct 1 monies. If they're not, we can amend it and give it to Precinct 3. I don't mind that, but just we're explaining the bill itself. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Ato.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm ready.
Okay, so no more discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Adda, Representative Atal,
Yes.
Representative Babauta Selena,
Again.
Representative Babauta Sheila,
Again.
Representative Komatsu Joel,
Again.
Representative Komatsu Vicente, Senator De Leon Guerrero,
Yes.
Representative Flores,
Yes.
Representative Lizama,
Yes.
Representative Magofnia,
Yes.
Representative Probst, Representative Sablan Christina,
Yes.
Representative Sablan John Paul,
Again.
Representative Villagomez,
Yes.
Representative Yangtamay,
Howard.
Representative Yumo, Chairman Sablan Vinny.
Again.
Mr. Chairman, all 17 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Clerk. With all 17 members voting yes, House Local Bill 22-32 hereby passes the delegation. And that is our last bill on today's bill calendar. Moving on to item R, miscellaneous business. Clerk? None?
We have none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, none under miscellaneous business. Under S, announcement, the chair has an announcement. As you all know, June 17th to the 25th, we will be welcoming our athletes and delegates from all the island nations that are participating for the Pacific Mini Games. Speaking and agreeing with our vice chairman and our floor leader, we decided that we would host on behalf of the delegation, all of us, we would host the delegates, the head of their delegates during the tournament. So we are now in the planning stages, and tentatively we are looking at June 21, and this will be a dinner with the delegates from all the island nations, sponsored by the delegation. So I just wanted to make sure that all the members of the delegation are aware of that, and we welcome our visiting brothers and sisters from all the island nations, with a nice hosting and dinner. I'll yield to our floor leader, who's taken the lead in the organization of this. So, floor leader, if you want to touch a little on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so we are very excited to host our dignitaries who will be visiting. And I want to thank Rep. Joel Camacho's office, Precinct 4, will be leading the planning on this, and we are working with Manita Marianas. We want to give them an experience that we have as residents here. And so we are looking at Papa Beach and working with various agencies to prepare for that. We will be focused on providing a local experience with local dishes and having our community cook and support and assist in the planning of this event. It will be a celebration, and we will have all the details shared with you. But if you would like to help plan and organize, or have staff that you would like to send our way for support, please contact me or Rep. Joel, and we will be happy to assist.
Thank you, floor leader. Representative Joel, under announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I also wanted to inform the members the reason why the planning is taking place at Papua Beach is because a lot of these dignitaries, or I believe all of them, will be staying at the Kensington Hotel. So, logistically, it makes sense. So, just in case you're wondering why it's not in Precinct 3 or Precinct 1. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Joel. And this also extends to our staff of the LB. Okay, you are part of this. The legislature, and we want to make sure that we have everyone assisting in this hosting. So more details will come. I know we are in the beginning of the month and we have several weeks left, but the planning is going, and we will be sending out information to everybody so that everybody's aware of what's going on. Okay, so any other announcements? No? Okay, so moving on to adjournment, recognize the floor leader for the proper motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I offer a motion for adjournment, subject to the call of the chair.
Thank you. There's been a motion to adjourn. It has been seconded. All in favor to adjourn, please say aye. All opposed say nay. This delegation session is hereby adjourned.